Has Billy Joel figured out why he goes to extremes yet? I mean, you think he would have told us? Maybe written another song or something, helping out all the other people who have that problem in this world. At the very least, he could have talked to Jovi. John Bon. John Bon Jovi, not the guy who owns all those surf shops. I mean, Jovi had that album Slippery When Wet, right there on the cover like a warning. But I mean, who gets their records wet? They wouldn't play. Talk about extremes, the record before that was called 7,800 Degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, that's way too hot. I mean, you'd have to throw it in the bathtub just to cool it down. But I mean, the very definition of extreme, I guess, would be that band Extreme, more than words, etc. You know how the song goes. I mean, their singer, Gary Sharon, talk about extremes. He joined Van Halen. Got to play with the old Edward Van, as Anthony Burgess would have said had he written Clockwork Orange in the 80s. I mean, he had that 1985 book, I mean, you're referencing Orwell's 1984, which, also Van Halen album, greatest record of all time. But I mean, Orwell almost had it right, it's only off by a year. I mean, as you recall, Roth left Van Halen on April 1st, 1985, so, Burgess had it right. But I mean, Clockwork Orange, I think you'll find Van Halen a Dutch, and what's the national color of the Dutch? It's orange. There you go. And then you had Alex, the main character, and the drummer of the band. He's watching that film with his eyes all bugging. I mean, what if he was watching the Pretty Woman video? I mean, whose eyes ain't been bugging when they watch that? It's like their own personal Ludovico technique. I mean, doesn't Alex Van Halen play Ludwig? I mean, I can't make this stuff up. I mean, what did Anthony Burgess write in the late 70s when Van Halen first started releasing records? I mean, I must have been working on Earthly Powers. And then 1985 came out in 1978, the year of that first Van Halen record. I mean, Van Halen 2 came out the next year, 1979, and then years later, Van Halen 3 with Gary Sharon came out. So, I mean, that's kind of like releasing a book called 1985 in 1978. I'll be honest with you, I never heard Van Halen 3, but I appreciate the legacy. I mean, I saw that Sam and Dave tour back in 2002, and Gary Sharon joined Sammy Hagar on stage for Top of the World and some other songs, and I love Top of the World. I mean, people draw lines and stuff, and I mean, I love Roth, but I mean, I can appreciate Van Hagar, as they're rightfully known. I mean, I love 5150 and Top of the World. That's a great pop song. I mean, going to that show was a real eye-opener. I mean, I was waiting in line for the bathroom. Excuse the bathroom talk, but I mean, it's relevant. I mean, I was at that show in the line, and I just saw this guy I used to go to college with. His name was Jamie. I mean, that's what we called him because that was his name. Not like Jamie's crying or nothing. I'm not trying to tie that in. It was his real name. But I mean, he's in the line for the show. We're in the very same line. I hadn't seen him since college. I mean, but the line, I mean, that was one long line, as long as the Eiffel Tower. Well, I mean, you know what I mean. It was as long as the Eiffel Tower is high. Or you could think of it as like, as long as the line to get into the Eiffel Tower. I mean, any way you want, same distance. But I mean, we weren't in college anymore. I don't remember any lines being at college for the bathroom. Excuse the bathroom talk. I'm sorry. But I mean, of course there were lines at the parties. But I mean, we were at the show. The very show that was going on. While I'm sure other people were in college, maybe even waiting in line for a bathroom. Or something. Well, anyway, he yells across the line. So who are you here to see? And I mean, that just shocked me, like that Kiss song, I mean, and you'll remember that Gene Simmons, back he was kind of, producing Van Halen demos back in 1976, and he even recruited Alex and Eddie to play on 3 demos for Kiss. I mean, Christine 16 and two others, you know. I've been waiting years for those to come out. And, you know, finally last year, he releases them in that box set, you know, the Vault, but it's $2,500. I mean, that's almost like 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit, you know. But I mean, I yell back, you know, well, Dave, of course, you know, and this sets off a whole, you know, big argument in the line for the bathroom. But, well, excuse my potty talk again, but that but was just an interjection. It wasn't, you know, to start on something new. It wasn't a new line of potty talk, you know. But people are just yelling at each other, you know, fans of Sammy, fans of Dave, and like, you know, I didn't realize that anyone would be coming to see anyone other than Dave. Although, of course, you know, they would appreciate the Sammy songs too, you know. But, you know, it takes all types to make a world. And then Dave didn't play Unchained that night, and it just broke my heart. I mean, it broke my heart, you know. The greatest rock and roll song of all time ever written, you know. Followed closely by Panama and Everybody Wants Some. You know, Somebody Get Me a Doctor's up there in the top 5. And, you know, The Doctor Is Sick was the first Anthony Burgess novel I ever read, you know. But I think rounding out the top 5, you know, you got 4 Van Halen songs, but I would put Pavement's Unfair in there, you know, waving like you just don't care, Stephen Malcolm. I mean, that song is a rocker, you know, a roller, right down, not a controller, you know, like AC/DC sang on Dirty Deeds, Done Dirt Cheap, you know, all those D's and then a C, you know, they should have toured with Bad Brains. I mean, wouldn't that been amazing, you know? I mean, greatest tour ever, you know? Bad Brains had that crazy Dr. No on guitar, you know, whoa, Nelly. I mean, that guy could play, you know. And I mean, Dr. No, they should have done a Bond theme, you know. I mean, imagine that, a Bad Brains Bond theme. That would have been amazing, you know. Could have timed it right, you know, with like GoldenEye, just when hardcore was getting real popular, just before emo kicked in, you know. Gold maybe Die Another Day. Maybe Bad Brains and Madonna could have duetted. I mean, wow, think about that. Greatest song ever, you know. And then you got that Fall Out Boy band, you know that Sugar Sugar song, etc. You know how the song goes, you know. That always reminded me of Quicksand. But, you know, Bond is always falling out of airplanes, you know, like in GoldenEye and The Spy Who Loved Me. And, you know, Anthony Burgess, he wrote an early draft of the screenplay for The Spy Who Loved Me, you know. I mean, I think that whole underwater lair thing was his idea. You know, if you read his autobiographies, it's in there, you know. I mean, obviously, the ultimate would be for Van Halen to do a Bond theme, you know. I mean, they got lots of songs with eyes in there, you know, I'm the One or I'll Wait. I mean, we've been waiting years for Eon Productions to ask them, you know. I mean, maybe Fall Out Boy and Van Halen should collaborate. Or maybe the two of them and Madonna and Bad Brains. I mean, maybe that could be the whole film, just the 4 of them in the studio. It's a bit avant-garde, I know, but, you know, things are changing these days. You know, you got to go with the times, make some more extreme films, you know, like Billy Joel, you know. I mean, and then you got that Billy Joe, you know, out of Green Day, you know. I mean, 2 of them should, you know, do a duet, you know, collaborate, you know, call it El Billy or something, you know, get the mariachi style going, you know, or they could cover AC/DC's Who Made Who, you know, mariachi style or not. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. Or, you know, I mean, they could just record an album of a whole bunch of Billy songs, you know, like Billy Don't Lose My Number, or Dollar Bill by the Screaming Trees, or Billie Jean. I mean, that song always confused me growing up, you know, I mean, because you had that tennis player, Billie Jean King, and it was sung by Michael Jackson, who was the king of pop, you know. I mean, it was just confusing, like the land of confusion, you know, like that Genesis song, the video, you got the puppets, like blowing up the world, you know. You had that Anthony Burgess, you know, novel, End of the World News. But, I mean, you know, that video, that was all a bit too much. We're talking like 1986. I mean, it's a bit too much for people who are dealing with the fact that, you know, Roth had just left Van Halen the year before. I mean, you know, that was kind of heavy, you know. Or, you know, they could do Big Bad Bill as Sweet William now, you know, like Van Halen themselves did on Dive It Down, you know. But, I mean, 1986, you know, I mean, Burgess put out The Piano Players, same year that Van Halen released 5150, which was really synthesizer heavy, if you recall. And remember, there was all those rumors that Roth left because, you know, the focus was going more towards synthesizers and away from guitars. I mean, it's way more complicated than that. But, you know, what really gets me is that Burgess's Mozart and the Wolfgang came out in 1991, the very same year that Wolfgang Van Halen was born. I rest my case.